All right, in today's video, I'm trying to help you guys out in your upcoming Dynasty rookie draft, specifically in the first round. I want to talk about some players that I prefer over some specific first round picks and give you some help and some strategies to move forward to get the most value out of those later round picks that you have. Do me a massive favor, drop a like on the video to show some love. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And I want you to tell me down below, what draft picks do you have and what do you plan on using them for? Lastly, if you're looking for Dynasty rankings, go ahead and use our code LAND, L-A-N-D, at flockfantasy.com/land. There's a pinned comment as well as a link in the description. If you choose that Mother Flocker tier, you're gonna get a Dynasty team grade from myself and Badaki on a live stream. You're gonna get access to the Fantasy Hotline, which is a personalized DM where you can ask us questions, the biggest fantasy/Dynasty Discord in the world. And lastly, we just dropped a really cool update where you guys can put your community rankings on there. If you have a membership on the site, you can submit community articles, and we're really excited to see the community grow over there on Flock Fantasy. So from the 101 to the 106 in Dynasty Superflex rookie drafts this year, it goes in some order like Bijan, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jahmyr Gibbs, right? The 101 to the 106, and it goes in some order like that. The mock draft that you're seeing on your screen right now is just the most recent mock draft that we saw in our community. That's great. I love that tier. I feel very good about having a top 6 pick in Dynasty Superflex rookie drafts this year. Then we look at the 107 to the 109. Now, it's not the same tier of player, in my opinion, the same tier of talent that you're getting in the top 6 picks, but I still like the 107 to the 109 this year. I think these are good wide receivers, good profiles, and good positions to have fantasy, output here in year 1 or year 2. It's some order of Addison, Quentin, Zay Flowers, right? I am someone who doesn't believe that you should fade Zay Flowers in the top 9, so I personally feel very good about those top 3 picks. Where it gets dicey is that second tier break. First tier break is after 6, the second tier break is after 9, and it gets really, really difficult to know what to do from the 110 to the 112. Those are the picks that I think you guys should be moving on from in Superflex formats. Now, if you're in one quarterback, just take 3 picks back, right? And all of this will be relevant for you as well. But who are you taking here at the 110? Charbonnet behind Ken Walker or splitting with Ken Walker, A-Chain, undersized back, who I love, but ultimately he's not going to be some long-term workhorse. Levis, second round quarterback. Dalton Kincaid, tight ends don't typically produce in year 1. I just don't feel very good about the options here. So what I wanted to do today is to give you names that I think you should trade for with the picks. So let's look at the 110 to the 112. Let's start with the 110 here. And if you have the 110, I'm going to go position by position, pick by pick, and tell you some names that I think you should go out and trade for. So let's start with the quarterback position here and using the 110. If you have the 110, go out if you need a quarterback. Let's look at trading for Jordan Love. At the end of the day, you're looking at Jordan Love or Will Levis there. If you're going to keep the pick, do you feel better about Will Levis, who was drafted in the 2nd round, or Jordan Love, who just got a contract extension for the next 2 years, will be the starter in Green Bay? And they just brought in 3 offensive weapons for him in Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, and Luke Musgrave, as well as having Christian Watson, AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones, right? This is a team that is committing to Jordan Love, and he has sat behind Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest to do it all time. So he should be prepped to step into a really good situation there in Green Bay. And keep in mind, guys, I'm showing you trades from Keep Trade Cut. So all these trades are possible according to the community, according to millions of people who determine Keep Trade Cut's value system, okay? Millions of people who play Dynasty Football. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but this is a gauge, okay? These are starting points. Not every trade you're gonna be able to do straight up 1 for 1. It's a starting point, not a finish line, okay? And some people in your league might not do some of these trades. Others might give you more, right? So I'm just giving you a starting point with some of these deals. So Jordan Love, I think, is a great option. Outside of that, at the quarterback position here with the 110, I think Kenny Pickett is also a great option. You have to ask yourself, would you rather have Kenny Pickett or Will Levis? Because if you're looking for a quarterback at the 110, Will Levis is really your only option there. Kenny Pickett was picked in the first round. He has a 5th-year option by the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a vast history of success at the quarterback position. He finished the year 7-2, has great weapons around him: Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. So he could be one of those sneaky low-key buys here at the 110. Now, if you need a running back, there's only one running back that I really think you should pursue here at the 110, and that's J.K. Dobbins. Now, again, would I send J.K. Dobbins away for the 110 at this point in the offseason? No, I would hold on to J.K. Dobbins, but maybe you send this offer to someone, say, hey, you know, Dobbins looked a little weird to end the season, because he did. He was efficient, but he looked like he was limping through every carry that he had, and it starts a conversation. Hey, maybe instead of just the 110, you have to throw in a third or a player with similar value, or you have to do a different swap, but you start the conversation. I think J.K. Dobbins is primed for a big year. I'm shocked that the Ravens didn't draft a running back with how deep this class is, but Dobbins should smash here in 2023. Now, if you look at the wide receivers, here is the hot spot. And I think throughout this entire video, right here at the 110, the value it can get you for a wide receiver is just chef's kiss. Get one of these deals done if you have the 110 and you need a wide receiver. Go out and look at Jerry Jeudy. Sean Payton is in town. Courtland Sutton didn't look like the same player last year. Sean Payton stepping in. Russell Wilson could have a bounce back year with him. And Sean Payton made Michael Thomas very fantasy relevant, different players. But Jerry Jeudy's probably going to lead this team in targets here in 2023. How about Brandon Ayuk? You can have a look at a Brandon Ayuk deal. Questions around the quarterback position in San Francisco. Regardless, Ayuk finishes a top 15 wide receiver last year. Treylon Burks, I just released a video last week talking about why I believe Treylon Burks is one of the best buy lows right now. How about George Pickens? We just talked about Kenny Pickett finishing off the season really, really well. George Pickens had a nice rookie season compared to expectations when originally drafted. Jameson Williams, right? 6-game suspension. People are worried. Laporta steps in, but they clearly didn't replace Jameson Williams in this draft, in my mind. They replaced TJ Hawkinson. Terry McLaurin, a guy who's going to give you instant production here in the next couple years. How about his teammate, Jahan Dotson? Another player that I brought on a trade video here in the last couple days. Jahan Dotson, another name that is undervalued in the community. That list of wide receivers there, if you can manage to move your 110 as the central piece to get them, I think you will be doing yourself a massive, massive favor. I don't want to bet on Mingo over these names. I don't want to bet on Kincaid over these names as a rookie, even though I like Kincaid. I think he could produce early. But I think those wide receivers are the hot spot for this video. And if you're looking at tight end, look, if you're not competing right now, Kincaid isn't a terrible option. I just think you need to be patient. And history tells us that tight ends don't produce year one. I mean, I actually am prepping an article right now for Flock Fantasy, and I'm going to show you guys the last decade of first, second, and third round tight ends and how they've produced in their first year for fantasy. That might be already up on the site by the time I release this video. Again, use our code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off. Link in the description. So that's the 110. Why don't we go ahead and look at the 111? Because I still think there are really good options. If you're looking for quarterback, this is where you should start thinking about Jared Goff. There's talks about him getting a contract extension. I know they signed Hendon Hooker, so that could potentially make the Jared Goff owner a little bit uneasy. But think about it. How is Goff going to fail in this offense? One of the best offensive lines, top 10, top 5 in the NFL. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery in the backfield, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, Jameson Williams, top 5 offense last year. How is this offense going to fail with Jared Goff there? So to me, he seems like a safe buy, and I bet you he gets a contract extension there in Detroit. The other name I wanted to bring up, which is the ultimate wild card, and we're talking about wild card picks, dart throws here at the 111. How about Trey Lance? There's a lot of concern. Is it going to be Darnold? Is it going to be Purdy? Who knows? But even if it is one of those quarterbacks, Trey Lance could be a great wild card for you here at the 111 because, again, there's no smash hits here. So if you're looking for a wild card, a quarterback with Trey Lance's rushing upside is certainly enticing there. Let's move on to the running back position here at the 111. Only one name that I really wanted you to go out and target. And honestly, you could use the 110 on this player as well if you have the 110. But how about DeAndre Swift? Now, I have my own reservations around DeAndre Swift. But again, you look at your options here at the 110 if you need running back. Do you go Charbonnet, you know, who's right there with Ken Walker? Do you go A-Chain, who is kind of like, no disrespect, but a worse version? I like A-Chain. You guys know that. He's like a worse version who's, you know, not as heavy as DeAndre Swift. You know, so I would look at trading for DeAndre Swift here. Goes to the Eagles. Miles Sanders had a great bounce back year. Swift should fall into 7 touchdowns or so in this offense if he stays healthy. So I think Swift is a great option here at the 111. If you look at wide receivers, 2 names in particular come to mind. Hollywood Brown. I'm fully convinced that if Kyler Murray wasn't injured right now, you could not get Hollywood Brown at the discounts you're currently getting him at. It's actually crazy how cheap he is right now. Again, if you can do a deal centered around the 111 for Hollywood Brown, the Cardinals just traded a first-round pick for him last year. They will sign him long-term. Otherwise, they just threw away a first-round pick. That would be the worst bit of business that we've seen in the past, 5, 6, 7 years by a franchise. I don't think they'll do that. Kyler, Hollywood Brown have that connection from Oklahoma. And Hollywood Brown, you know, before D-Hop came back and before he got injured, was on track to be top 12, top 15 fantasy wide receiver. Unfortunately, the injury is what really derailed him. The other wide receiver I think you should target here is Calvin Ridley. Joins the upcoming emerging Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that is on the rise. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram. Those will be the 3 main receiving threats in this offense. A lot of people are forgetting how damn good Calvin Ridley is. Yes, he's a little bit older. I hear you. But at the same time, he's had a year off, so his body hasn't taken those hits that some of these other players have. I like Calvin Ridley as a bounce back here in 2023. And then if you look at the tight end position, only one tight end really comes to mind. And if this is the spot for Kincaid, then if you can actually get Dallas Goedert, it should be a no-brainer. Like Dallas Goedert, if Kincaid is on the board at the 111 for you, and you can actually send the 111 for Dallas Goedert, it should be a no-brainer. Dallas Goedert was on track to be a top 3 to 4 tight end last year before his injury at Washington with the face mask, if you guys remember that. I mean, he was very efficient. He was relatively consistent for the position, and he's tied to an incredible offense, and he's, you know, a younger tight end. He's not one of these tight ends who are in their 30s. No, he's still late 20s. So if you can get Goddard, you know, in a tight end premium, you won't be able to, but in your standard, you know, non-premium formats, if you can get Goddard and you're competing, it's a no-brainer to get him over Kincaid, in my opinion. Even though I love Kincaid in Buffalo, I'm a big fan of Kincaid in Buffalo. I think he could contribute year one. He could be one of those outliers at the tight end position, but history tells us it doesn't always happen. It typically doesn't happen for rookies. In fact, if I remember properly, I think it's somewhere around like mid 20% of tight ends drafted in the first round have been top 12 as a rookie. But that article will be up on Flock Fantasy by now. So why don't we look at the 112 here to finish off the video? Okay. And, you know, if you have the 111, you can still send some of those offers for players that I mentioned in the 110, right? If you have the 110, you can still send some of those trade offers that I mentioned for the 111. You know, like if I can get Hollywood Brown straight up for the 110, I'm not opposed to trying that. But let's look at the 112 here. I think this is another great range if you're competing and you need a quarterback in your Superflex leagues. Geno Smith, a lot of concern before the draft. Oh, do they go Anthony Richardson if he's available? Do they take Hendon Hooker? We kept hearing people saying Hendon Hooker would be the pick for the Seahawks at the back end of the first round. Well, they don't take a quarterback at all. In fact, they draft Jackson Smith and Jigba to help Geno Smith, who was already one of, if not the most efficient quarterbacks in the game last year. I think he had the third or second highest completion percentage ahead of Joe Burrow He was extremely efficient, Pro Bowl quarterback, just got the contract extension. You add a do-it-all running back in Zach Charbonnet when you already had a do-it-all running back in Kim Walker. You add the best wide receiver in the draft. You have DK Metcalf. You have Tyler Lockett as he ages. Geno Smith, if I am competing, or even if I'm not competing, I think he improves his value this year compared to the 112. There's not a more valuable rookie available at the 112 than Geno Smith in Superflex leagues. The other name, which I think is a little more risky, but again, looking at how shaky the back end of the first round is this year, how about Russell Wilson? Okay, Sean Payton is coming into town, and he can get this team back on track. He can get Russell Wilson back on track, right? Thinking about different situation, but thinking about how Drew Brees had some issues with the Chargers, lands in New Orleans, and revives his career. Well, maybe Sean Payton can be the one that comes in here with Russell Wilson and revives his career. For the Broncos, they kind of need that to be what's going to happen, because Russ is signed to a long-term contract and there is a ton of guaranteed money. I don't know how they get out of that contract. So as much as Sean is saying, you know, there's no guarantee, it could be anyone at quarterback. We'll make it work. Well, it's going to probably have to be Russ when you look at that contract. So then we look at the running back position, a name that Badaki and I have been suggesting for you guys to buy all offseason. Well, since he signed in Carolina, how about Miles Sanders? Gets the 4-year deal in Carolina, rookie quarterback, an offensive line that is improving each year. You know, with the icky draft pick last year, you got your franchise left tackle. You add Miles Sanders. You don't really draft a running back of note in the draft. Miles Sanders should lead this team in rushing easily, and they should establish the run a lot with a rookie quarterback. So don't be surprised if Miles Sanders pops off another 1,000-yard season, 7-8 touchdowns, and a little bit of work through the air with that questionable receiving core in Carolina. But if you're competing Miles Sanders in the 112, that is a perfect trade that you could line up. Hey, do you want Miles Sanders if you're competing right now, or Devin Achane or Charbonnet? You make that decision. If I'm competing, I feel better about having Sanders at that point. And then at the wide receiver position, a name that actually a couple months ago I suggested we should all be buying. He was priced out around the 202 to the 203. Deontay Johnson, one of my biggest sell highs last offseason, becomes a player that I'm telling you to buy now. He will definitely have some positive regression in the touchdown category. You and I, me and you, whoever's watching right now with me, we had the same amount of touchdowns as he did last year. That's going to change. He's going to get more touchdowns here. Second year for Kenny Pickett. The offense is, establishing itself. I still think Pickens is going to emerge long term, but for the 112, I think it's a good price. And then at tight end, if you need a tight end here at the 112, to me, I would say this is where you take a shot on Kincaid if he's available. A little too early for me again for Michael Mayer, but at the 112, I feel like Kincaid is a perfect pick there. So look, the entire point of this video is to help you make the most of the picks that you have. A lot of you guys at the back end of the first round will be competing teams, or you will be teams who traded 4 first-round picks from teams who went out and won championships or were competing in the playoffs. So I hope this is helpful. And again, keep in mind, if you're in one quarterback formats, well, the 110 that I just talked about, that could technically be, what would it be? The 9, 8, that'd be the 1-7. Just take away the 3 quarterbacks. You know what I mean? The 111 becomes the 1-8. The 112 becomes the 1-9, and you can still look at those same players. But yeah, I think specifically this year, more than any other year, I think the tiers are very defined. The 101 to the 106, fantastic tier to be in. The 107 to the 109, okay, you didn't get in that top echelon, but it's still likely that you're going to get a contributor to your team. The 110 to the 112, it's a lot of guessing, if we're honest. It's a lot of guessing. It's a lot of projecting. It's a lot of, if this happens, then this player will be good, or the upside is here, or what could happen if, right? Get yourself established players instead here from the 110 to the 112. So if I had to name my favorite buys that I mentioned, it's the wide receivers at 110. All those wide receivers I think are incredible buys, as well as J.K. Dobbins at the 110. At the 111, I love Hollywood. At the 112, I love Geno and Miles Sanders. So that's some advice for you guys. Hopefully you're able to go out and make some of these deals. And hey, maybe your rookie draft already happened, but take those players that you drafted and look at moving them for the players that I mentioned. Well, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Do me a massive favor, drop a like to show some love. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And if you want your rankings to be shown amongst our community on our website, use our code LAND. These guys here, after I'm done talking, are going to tell you how to unlock that. Really excited about Flock Fantasy. Thanks for joining. See you in the next video. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.